Hey, it's Ethan here at eTrailer. Today we're going to be taking a look at and showing you how to install the Glacier Chain cable snow tire chains on our 2022 Ford Edge. We have them here on our front axle as per the owner's manual. These are going to be on tire size 245/60R18. Make sure you check the fit guide at eTrailer to get the right chains for your tire size. Also, just to clarify, the owner's manual does not recommend using chains on this tire size, but if you do live in a state or an area where you're required to have them legally, these are still going to be a good option for you. So let's take a closer look. These chains are going to be kind of an emergency case only situation set of chains. If you live in an area that gets moderate to severe snow pretty frequently, I would recommend upgrading, finding something with larger lengths. But if you live in an area that gets some snow periodically and you need a chain that you can carry with you for just in case emergency situations, or you're traveling through a state that requires you to have them, these are a great option. They do have a ladder pattern, which means they go straight across the tire parallel to one another. So it's going to help a lot with starting and stopping. Typically with ladder patterns, you feel them a little bit more when you are driving, especially on those starts and stops. But because these do have those rollers that go across our cables, that cuts down on some of that, and it allows them to keep a lower profile, which allows them to meet Class S compatibility standards, which we're definitely going to need because we do not have a ton of wheel well clearance before we hit our struts and our suspension back here. Another reason these chains fall into that category is because they're made of a low carbon steel. So it's not a bad thing, it's just not necessarily as high quality or as durable as some alloy chains. So they're going to be a little bit more susceptible to rust, weather, and corrosion. You're not going to get quite as many seasons out of a low carbon steel chain. The chains do come 2 to a set, and it's pretty lightweight plastic bag. It's not horrible, especially when the first time you get them, but roller chains are notoriously difficult to roll back up and get back in here. So it does keep them in a pretty low profile. If you want to deal with rolling them up and keeping them in here, it's not the worst option. If you do want to get these chains and keep them a little bit more secure and somewhere that's easier to roll them back up, I'd recommend just upgrading to some sort of larger plastic tote to keep them in, but overall it's not the worst. Also, just because they don't have very many tensioning options, it's sort of just the 1 or 2 connections that you'll see in the install portion. We recommend picking up one of these rubber tensioners to keep everything a little bit more secure and to get that initial fit a little bit better. Also, we do recommend trying it out in your garage before you find yourself stranded on the side of the road trying to figure it out for the first time. But if you don't want to check out that install process, you can look at that right now. The first thing we like to do is to lay the chains out flat. Just want to make sure that nothing is caught up or twisted or tangled. In this case, there's no levers or anything on either side, so it doesn't necessarily matter which direction they face side to side. But as far as top down goes, we want to make sure that this side, it says tire side right on there. It might be kind of hard to see, but it is the flat portion. We want that making contact with the tread of the tire rather than the side at the end where that hinge connects. So the way we have them right now is the way we want them to be. Next, it's just a good idea to try to center everything up as best you can. And then we're just going to grab links towards the back here in the middle and slowly drape them over our tire. They do have a little bit of memory stored in them from being rolled up. So we're just going to do our best to go slow so we're not scratching up our wheel well too bad. And just getting them over and in place. Trying to keep everything even front to back and side to side. Just going to make our life a little bit easier when we go to make our first connection. On the back side here, making this connection might be a little tough because we don't have a ton of clearance, but you're basically just going to try to fit one of these studs through this catch plate on the other end. I'm going to go for at least 2, maybe 3 if I can get there. Just try to find a way to get those through. There we go. And we're going to do the same thing on the front, but if we need to, we can come back and adjust either side. Connection on the front is the same exact thing as on the back, just fitting one of these studs through this metal plate. Little eyelet there, catch it on the other side. And from here you can see the chains are still a little bit loose, so we're going to throw one of these rubber tensioners on as well. To put it on similar to how you would put a tire on or take it off. Up, down, and side to side. Trying to make sure that it's even as you can. So when we're driving along, the chains are going to shift as you bump and turn. This rubber tensioner is just going to be a nice secondary layer of defense to try to keep the chains secure and in place. With the tensioner on, you see how much more tension we do have in the chains, so we definitely do recommend picking one of those up. From here, make sure you install them on your driver's side as well. Roll forward or backwards just a few times to make sure everything is in place and secure, and then you're ready to go. Overall, I've mentioned it a few times throughout the video, but these chains are going to be an emergency case only use situation for most people that are getting them, whether they live in an area that gets a little bit of snow very infrequently, or you just are required to have them legally. Just because in the owner's manual, again, it doesn't necessarily recommend using tire chains for this tire size. But again, if you do live in an area where you need them, these are going to be low profile and they're easy enough to get on and off and to store when you're not using them, so they're still a good option. This again was just a quick look at the Glacier Chain cable snow tire chains and how they fit on our 2022 Ford Edge.